कर रहा हूँ मैं लोगों को एक्सेप्ट, ठीक है।
कर कर एडमिट कर।
Okay, Piyush sir, I guess we are good to go.
Yes.
So good afternoon, everyone. Myself Sanskar. I'm working here as a marketing head, business development head. I welcome you all in our third webinar, third international webinar, that is Core Java and Advanced Java, as well as Selenium. So I'll carry forward to Piyush sir. He'll be teaching you. He's a head of app development department in HSM Solutions. Okay, Piyush sir, you can carry on. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So first of all, I welcome you all to this webinar series. And the webinar we'll be having on the topic is today will be Java. Most of you would have heard about Java in our colleges. It's like the most prominent language which they teach in colleges and all. So why Java? Why do we have? Why is this so important even in today's date? Being a very old language, it is almost 25 years from now that it was like it was launched almost 25 years ago from now, and why people still love it and why people still use it, that we'll be seeing, and why that is the reason. Okay, so let's start with what is Java. Okay, first I'll assume that most of you are beginners and have almost no knowledge, no prerequisite of Java. I will teach accordingly according to that. Okay, so if you know anything in this topics, please ignore that for now, because I'll be assuming that everyone is a fresher and everyone is new in learning Java. Okay, so let's start with that. Okay, so Java is a technology widely used currently. Okay, yeah. What is Java? Firstly, Java is a programming language. It is an object-oriented programming language. Okay, and the speciality of Java is that it can run on any platform. Okay, so like the tagline of Java used to be like write once and run everywhere. Okay, so whatever Java code we'll write, that is compatible with most of the processor architectures and most of the operating systems. Okay, so that's why they always say that Java is platform independent. You don't have to do any configurations, or you don't have to add any third party applications to run Java on your machine. Okay, that's why it is so popular. Okay, it supports almost various kinds of platforms and hardware and software environments. Okay, because Java has its own runtime. Java, if you have heard about JVM, JVM is something which creates like a virtual machine, and upon which we run our code, and that virtual machine is compatible with almost any hardware and processor architecture. Okay, so let's start. Where is Java used? Okay, Java was developed by Sun Microsystems, right, in almost in 1995 at its stable release. It was used in desktop applications. Okay, web applications, you know. Okay, there are web applications also. They used to use Java, but now various browsers are running on JavaScript, I guess. So yeah, the usage of Java in web browsers and web applications is little less, but still, a few years ago, Java used to be the first choice of developers who used to write codes for web applications. Okay, enterprise level applications like banking applications and some heavy level applications. They also use Java. Mobile, we all know Android still runs of Java. Okay, it has been almost 20 years since Android has its is in existence, and it still uses Java for almost everything. Okay, if you but now we have a option of writing the code in Kotlin, but still under the hood it's still Java, pure Java. Okay, embedded system, we all know in today's date we have a lot of boom of IoT devices and all. They on a very large scale they use Java for their programming. Okay, smart card, robotics, games, we all know about this. Okay, games, if you know about Minecraft, it is a very popular game. It is written solely in Java. Okay, so yeah, what there are majorly four types of applications that we can create using Java. Standalone applications, like we have some desktop applications we run on our computers, like on Windows you have some applications that can be built using Java. Web applications, I told you ki uh, earlier they used to browsers used to run Java code, but now they have switched to JavaScript. But yeah, we can write the server side code, the whole server side code using Java, using some servlet technology. Okay, struts used to be there, but now there's Spring Boot, and these are technologies by which we can write a Java code which would be used as a backend for any front end. Okay, we can create APIs. If you know about the concept of REST APIs, GraphQL, we can do that using Java very easily. Okay, enterprise applications, mobile applications, I told you Android is still running Java, and it will be it will be using it for a very long time. Okay, history of Java, I will not get into this too much. It was made by a guy called James Gosling back in 1995. Okay, we will not get into this all these. Okay, yeah, these are the Java versions. Okay, Java first version of Java was in 1995. Currently we have Java 13. Okay, but the stable one is Java 11 right now. We have Java 8. Java 8 is also a very stable one. It was launched in almost like 5 6 years ago, back in 2014 15 something. And now currently Oracle is doing some different. If you don't know Oracle is the company which owns the rights of Java, and it controls and it works on Java. Okay, uh, so they are working on some things with regarding Java so they are giving some regular updates in the JDK. Okay, so these are some little features of Java. Okay, there is it is simple, as you know. I don't know why people think that Java is difficult to run. It is very simple. Okay, if you also want to learn it as your first programming language, still it is a very good choice, I would say. Apart from some other languages. Okay, it is object oriented. You all know like most of the modern programming languages now are object oriented. Okay, platform independent, I told you ki Java code can run on any platform. Okay, it is secured, robust. Okay, and these are just some things. I'll share this PPT and you can read about all of this. Okay, and according to Sun, the people who made Java, the Sun Microsystem company, she was made to extend some of the features of C++ because C++ used to be there. And yeah, it removed the use of pointers. We have pointers in C++ and C. So yeah, it doesn't have any pointers. It's purely object oriented. Okay. Object oriented, what is this? What kind of things we have in object oriented world? We'll see that in some time. Okay. Platform independence, I told you. See, this is something whenever we compile our Java code, it is converted into a dot class file, and it internally has a JVM with it, and that JVM runs on makes that code compatible with any operating system. As you can see here, the class file is compatible with Windows, Linux, and Mac OS also. Okay. Secured, yeah, Java is very secured. No, it's because we don't use pointers and all over here. Okay. These are very vague things. You can read about this when I'll share you the PPT. Robust, yeah, is a very important point to mention. Java is robust, means it is very strong. Okay. Java uses strong memory management, and therefore it doesn't have any security problems and all. Portable, yeah, as I told you, as it runs on any device, or operating system, it can be portable. Okay. High performance, yeah, Java is faster than traditional interpretation language, but still slower than purely compiled languages like C++ and C. But yeah, as it is a compiled language, because we don't directly run the Java code, we convert it into a compiled Java file. Okay. And that's why it is very fast as compared to other languages, I would say. As compared to Python, if you say Python is a interpreted language, or JavaScript, if you take JavaScript is a interpreted language. So uh, Java is way more faster than those languages, because we first compile the Java code and then we interpret that code. Okay, it is not directly interpreted. That's why it is that's why it is very fast and high performance. Okay. Distributed, we can create distributed applications in Java, ROI, EJB. These are very vague things. We don't get into this for now. We'll stick to the basics, and we will try to see the bare bones of Java. Okay. Uh, Multi-threaded, yeah, also a very interesting point to notice that Java is multi-threaded. That means it can run two separate forms of code in a single time. Okay, if you take a single-threaded application like JavaScript, it cannot run multiple programs in a single time. Okay, so in Java, we can run two programs at the same time, by making it something called thread. Okay, and we can simultaneously execute those code. Okay, that's why that this feature makes Java so powerful and fast. Okay. And the main advantage of that multi-threading is it shares the same memory. That's why we don't have that memory problem and all. Okay. Simple program on Java. We'll see how to write Java code. Okay. And what we have to do for that. Okay. See, this is the basic step when we write down Java. We first save our Java file. Suppose we have any example Java file. When the compiler name of Java is Java C. Okay, so what that Java C does, Java C converts that Java code into a dot class file, and then we run that dot class file on our system. Okay, we'll see this. Okay, very soon. Let's just get out of this PPT and see what we have to do for running Java. Okay, the first thing that we need for running Java is we need JDK. Okay, if you don't know JDK, what JDK is, I have a simple diagram of JDK over here. Okay, JDK is a Java development kit. Okay, and Java development kit, it has Inside the JDK, we have various things like JRE. JRE means the Java runtime environment, and JVM. As I told you, JVM is the virtual machine which uh, which helps us to run code across multiple systems. Okay, so the first thing we'll need for running Java in our system is JDK. Okay, so for that, for getting JDK, we can go to the site of Oracle, and from there we can download JDK. Okay, just type JDK over here, and you can go to this oracle.com website. Okay, Oracle, I told you Oracle is the company which owns the rights of Java right now. Okay, here we can download JDK. uh, like, oh, currently they have JDK 14 also. It is a very new release, I think. But yeah, here in this site you can go for that, and you can download JDK from here. Okay, I would say go for JDK 11 or JDK 8 for now. Don't download the latest editions. Okay, because those are the some they have some other uh, like those are the unstable version. They have some updates on a monthly basis, I think. So the older versions like the Java 11 or Java 8, they are the stable ones. Okay, they are in companies also. If you work, they still use JDK 8 or JDK 11. So yeah, if you're going to download JDK, I'll suggest go for JDK 8 or JDK 11 for now. Okay. After, if you want to experiment on that, you can go for JDK 13 also. Okay. So, and the editor which we'll be using is Eclipse. Okay, Eclipse. You can go search Eclipse, and in this download tab you can use IntelliJ. Okay, IntelliJ you can use. You can use NetBeans. There are various editors for Java, I think. So yeah, it's your choice. You can use any. So yeah, from this download button, you'll download Eclipse. I've already downloaded it, and I have installed it over here. The installation process is nothing. Just go and do next. That would work. Okay, like any normal software installation, you go and do the next. It will install. Okay. NetBeans is okay. No, I would say go if you have a good enough system, go for Eclipse or IntelliJ. IntelliJ is far more better than Eclipse, I would say, but it is little bit heavy if you don't have a good system. So you can go for IntelliJ also. But yeah, okay, it's your choice. Whatever you want to use, you can go for that. When you download the JDK from the Oracle site, you'll get this jar file like this. Okay, jar means simply a Java archive. Okay, you just open up this, and if you go, this will give you the installation process. Just keep on clicking the next, and it will install. And in your program files folder, okay, you'll get this folder like this. Okay, in your program files folder, or the x86 one, the x86 means the 32-bit, and this is for the 62-bit again. This opened up. See, this will you'll get this installation setup window. Okay, you just do and you can install Java. After the installation, I've already installed it. That's why I'm not doing it again. After you successfully installed it, in this program files section, open a program file section, and here you have this uh, where was it? Uh, you'll get a folder called Java. Okay, yeah, here we have it. You get this folder of Java. Okay, here you'll have the JDK, and when you are finished that, go in your environment variables of your system, and here in this path section, give the path of the bin folder of your JRE. Okay, and that would if you want to check that if JDK is successfully installed, just open up command prompt. Okay, just type Java. Okay, if you get these options. Okay, or if you type Java version, it will give you the Java version you have. Okay, see, this gave me the Java version that I have. Okay, of the OpenJDK runtime. Okay, So to check if you have successfully installed JDK, you can do this. You can just open up command prompt and check it. Okay. So let's open up our Eclipse and let's start with the basics of Java and let's see how it works. Okay. Okay. It is giving me some error. I think I have messed up with the path. Okay. Okay, it is saying that I have not installed JDK properly. Let's just again install JDK in our system. Okay. It will take, it will not take, I think, more than a minute. It is, okay. This is this kind of window you'll get when you'll install Java. Okay. It will take a little time. Okay. Yeah. So Java development kit is successfully installed in our system. Okay. So let's just see our Eclipse is running or not. The version of Eclipse I have is old one. When you'll download it now, you'll get the latest one. Okay. In my system preferences, Java shows Java 8 update 251. In search in the terminal, Java version 14. Then which version I'm currently using? I'm confused. See, if you have installed Android Studio, it will also get the path of that Android Studio JDK because that also has JDK in it. So just check in your program the program files folder, and there you'll have a folder of of your Java JDK. Okay, there you can check which version you have. Okay, I think 14. Don't use 14 for now. Go for 11 or Java 8 for now. Okay, 14 is very new and it is very fast. Sorry, very fast, not very unstable, I would say. So first thing, what we do, let's just create a folder. How to create a folder in Eclipse? If you can go here, here in the new section, you'll get this option for a new Java project. Just click on that. Name it anything, A, B, C, D, or anything you can name it. Okay. Here also it will detect and tell you which version you have. See, it is telling me I have Java 1.8. Okay. So here also you can check which JDK you are having. Okay, it created a project for me, and in this SRC, see in this JRE system library, it gave me all the jar files necessary. Okay, jar files. If you don't know, jar files are the Java archive files. Like think of it like if you are giving any product, you give a zip file. Okay, if you are giving some, if you're downloading some software or something, you get a zip file. Okay, so that this is also like something like that. Okay, how do I use Eclipse and JDK? See, when you install Eclipse, it will automatically detect the JDK in your system if you give it in the environment variables. I told you how to specify the path of your environment variables. So when you install Eclipse, it will automatically detect if it is mentioned in the environment variables. Okay, so you can do that. Okay. So yeah, jar file I was talking about. Jar file is Java archive, and it is just like a collection of Java programs built and wrapped inside a file, and which are used for various kinds of operations and various type of program which we do. Okay. So here in the SRC folder, okay, create a package. Okay, name it anything. You can name it anything. Here I got this empty package. Okay, in this package, open up and open up, and here you'll get some options. Okay, see, class and interface and enum annotation. Okay, see interface, what is interface and all, we'll see that later. For now we'll just have a Java class. Okay, and after you open up this Java class window, what I told you, in this package folder, click on this class. Okay, this will give you a new Java class and a separated Java file for that. Okay, so you can name it anything. I'll just name it A. Okay, when I finish this now, this will create a ready-made file for me. I'll just increase the font size. Okay, so yeah, this is a Java class. If you don't know what is a class is, if you have even coded in C++, C++ also has something called class, and class is like a container. Okay, it is like a container in which we have our variables and all the functions that we write. So yeah, this is what we called a class. Okay, and each class, for each class in our Java file, okay, we'll get a separate dot class file whenever we compile our Java code. Compiling, if you don't know, compiling is just a process in which we convert our handwritten code into the byte code which runs on a system, because the computer doesn't know this language. It converts it in some byte code, which is like the 0101 language. So, can you explain why Java is platform independent? See, Java is platform independent because it has something called JVM. Okay, JVM, I told you, it is Java Virtual Machine. Also, JRE, okay, Java Runtime Environment. So it is not dependent on the system's runtime. It has its own runtime, and because of that, JVM and JRE, it it is compatible on various operating systems, or various processor architectures, I would say. And that's why they always say that that is the tagline of Java. You write code once and you can run it anywhere because of that JVM and JRE which we have. And I would not say it is very good, but yeah, it is a very helpful when we are writing some product, so we don't have to have some different configurations for different types of system. We can create a single product. Like suppose if you are creating some product in Java, you don't have to worry about several kinds of systems. You can create that with a single Java class, and you can run it across various systems. Okay, so yeah, this is a Java class. And as you know, if in the programming world, the first thing that we do, uh, the first entry point of whatever Java program we have, uh, wrapper classes. What are wrapper classes? Someone asked me. See, it is like we wrap our whatever functions or whatever methods, variables we have, we wrap it inside a class. Okay, I didn't exactly get what you are meaning to say, but yeah, the class is something like that. If you have even coded in C++, C++ also has a similar concept of class. Okay, so okay, the first thing which we have is a main method. I think everyone should be familiar what is a main method. In C also we have that void main. In C++ also we have that thing. Okay, so we have the same thing. How much files came in the project? Okay, see, when we created the project, this is the default JRE system library. This gave us some jar files. Okay, these are necessary for running our basic Java code. If you want to add some external jar files also, you can add it right here. Okay, okay, if you go to Maven and all, there you get jar files for, or if you want for some specific purposes. Okay, so instead of writing everything on your own, you can use that jar files. What is jar file? Jar file are Java archives. they are just pieces of Java code built together to run our code. Okay, to do for some specific operations, I would say instead of doing everything on our own, we can use a third-party jar file which would do that task for us by calling its inbuilt ready-made methods and functions. Okay, so okay, now let's just focus on the starting point. Okay, many of you would be freshers, so let's see how we declare a main method in Java. Okay, main is the main method is the entry point of our Java code. So to declare a main method, it is a little bit lengthy as compared to other languages. We have to do like public and string and arguments. Okay, so this is how we declare a main method in Java. Okay, it should be inside a class only. You cannot independently declare a main method. You have to write it inside a class. Okay, the public static void main means public private, they are keyword of the object oriented concept. We'll look into that very soon. Static, also, if you must be knowing, static means the one copy storage thing. Void means it doesn't return anything. Like I think most of the main methods we write void for them. Okay, so let's see how can we print our first hello world program in Java. Okay, for that we can just write system dot out. Okay, system dot out and dot print ln. Okay, print ln, what this will do, this will just print next line. Okay, we don't have to write that slash n every time. If you use print ln, this will automatically print us to the next line. If you just write print, it will not print the next line. Okay, so you can use print ln for this. And this is like, here you can just write the string, whatever string you want to write. Okay, and after right clicking, you'll get this option to run as. You can run it as a Java application. See, here we are on our console, we are getting the output. So this is the first step while learning Java. We saw how to write a hello world program in Java. Okay, nothing big. Just we had a class of a Java file, and we wrote a main method over there, and we just wrote system.out.println, and that outputted the string which we passed inside it. Okay, now let's just see variables. What types of variables we have in Java, how to declare variables in Java. Okay, see, I'm assuming most of the people are new in Java. That's why I'm sticking to the basics for now. We'll look into some advanced concept also as we move forward. Okay, so let's see how to declare variables in Java. First one would be integer. Just type int. Give whatever name you want to give it, and this is how we'll declare an integer. Okay, very simple. Most of you must be knowing this. Float also, you can do this for float. Float just means a decimal kind of number. Okay, so this is how you can declare float. Okay, because this is giving us an error. Okay, yeah, float. You can use double if you are getting this kind of error. You can use double also. Double is similar to float, but its byte size is little bit more. Okay, you can also use double. This will take away the error. String, you can directly write a string. Okay, if you want to declare a string, okay, you can directly go here and write a string. You can write anything. Okay, this is how you simply declare a string. Okay, and now let's just see some further topics. Okay, we saw how to declare a string. The primitives, see, string is not a primitive variable. String is a derived class, I would say. But integer, double, character, booleans, these are all primitive variables. Like, okay, operators you have in Java, the addition operators, the multiplication, we'll see how, what are they and how can we use them. Okay. Let's just now see how can we get the user's input. Okay. Let's just see how can we get the user's input. Okay. As we do in C, we do C++, we do C and C we do like scanf or something. Let's just see how can we do that in Java. In Java it is little bit different. You have to do a separate process for that. It doesn't directly allow you to like get users input. You have to create an instance of this scanner class. Okay. This is the scanner class. You have to import. Yeah, this is auto import the scanner package. The scanner is from the java.util package. Okay. You can if you type scanner, it will automatically import that library for you, and you can give it any name. Okay. And this is we are what we are doing is we are creating an instance of that scanner class. Okay. Okay, so this is fine. Here we have to pass something. Okay, we have to pass this property of system.in. Okay, what this will do, this will specify that we are taking some output from this. Okay, now supposedly we want to use a string. Okay, we are taking some string. Okay, so for doing that, what we can do is we can declare a string. Okay, strings, name it so anything AA, and we can name it like scanner dot has next. Okay, or scanner dot next line also you can do. This will just print the next line. Okay, so this is the variable for which we'll be taking inputs from our user. Okay, scanner is a predefined keyword. See, scanner is not defined. It comes inside the java.util package. Okay, it is a part of JDK only, but it is not inbuilt. I would say you have to import this util package for that. Okay, in your code to use the scanner. Okay, what are the user packages? Packages are just different kinds of like pieces of code which it has different classes variables only, and it is just a method to separate those. Okay, that is just a class. Okay, so let's just see how we can print this. Okay, for printing I told you we have to just do system dot out dot println. Okay, println you can do, and let's just try printing this a whatever we give the input that would get printed. Okay, very basic thing we are doing. We're just taking the input from the user and we're trying to print it. Okay, here it will prompt us to give any input. You can give input anything. You can give a b c d. You can give. See, we are getting this print. We are getting this our output printed. Okay, what is the use of scanner? Scanner, I told you, as you have C in or scanf in C or C++, the purpose of that is taking the input from the user. Scanner is very much like that only. Why is camel case followed in Java? Why not like C? Yeah, it is different. It is a little bit different. The writing notations of Java are a little bit different, but yeah, once you get used to it, it will be you will be very familiar with this coding technique. Okay, in C++ or C, I think we everything we write is in small case. Okay, so yeah, let's see how can we interpolate a string when we are printing. Okay, if you know in C we do that %d, or for float we write %f and all. Okay, let's see how can we interpolate a string or a variable in our Java code in our printing. Okay, so for that we have to just we use this plus sign. Okay, we can use this plus and we can give it a string, and this is how we'll interpolate or use that thing in our printing line. Okay, so here you can specify any line. This we can like this is the user. Try relating this with C. In C, what we do is if you want to use this string inside our printing line, we write percent %C, percent %D for integer, percent %F for float. Okay, but here we have to write the plus sign like this, and then we can specify. And again, if you want to continue doing this, we can also do here also we can go on like this. Okay, this is how we'll interpolate the string. Okay, so if I give this any string, okay, supposedly any string, any random string, see, this is how this will print the string. Okay, I've not given spaces over here, that's why it's not giving us any space. But yeah, I hope this is clear how we'll take the user input and use it in our Java code. Okay, and also the string interpolation thing, it is little bit different. Okay, over in Java, and the user input process also is a little bit different. We have to use this scanner class for this. Okay, now let's just see the conditional statements and all. Okay, the conditional statements, I would not say it is different, it is same as we do in C++ and C, I think. uh, Supposedly anything we have integer a, its value is 3. Okay, and what can we do is we can use the normal if condition over here. This is very same to other C or C++. Okay, we do the same thing over there also. We just write if and else blocks over there. So yeah, this is same. What can we do? We can give it a condition like if a is equals to 3, then uh, system.out.println that it is true. Okay, and if it is false, it will print this. This is shortcut in Eclipse you get. If you type syso, you'll get this option to system.out.println. Okay, but if you're starting, don't use shortcuts. Okay, just disable the suggestions. Try writing everything on your own, I would suggest. Okay, so let's just see how this is the if this if else condition works or not. Yeah, if this is working fine, because the 3 is equals the our value of a is equals to 3. Suppose if we want to check that it is not equal to condition, that we can just put an exclamation mark. This would be the not equals to condition. Okay, earlier what we saw is for the equals to condition we can use a double equal to. Okay, so this is for the not equal to condition. Let's see what we get. Now it is giving us false because the condition is not true, that a is not equal to 3, because a is 3 and it is true. Okay, so yeah, we can also use a nest or the if else blocks inside them if you want to do it, or you can also use the else if block. Okay, else if, again, if you have multiple conditions to check, you can use this else if block. Suppose like a is equals to 5. Okay, so this would be a shortcut for printing that in Eclipse especially. I don't know if you get this in the IntelliJ or what. You can just type syso and this will give you this shortcut that you can use to write this whole statement of system.out. Okay. Yeah, here you can write anything. Okay, so yeah, this is just multiple if else conditions. Okay, someone is asking me to take the input from user and then use it in our if else condition. Yeah, we can easily do it. Okay, so let's build a condition like that. Okay, uh, for taking input, what we have to do is simple. We have to import the scanner class. Okay, we'll name it scanner only. I hope you guys know how to instantiate or how to create an object of a class. Okay, in Java you simply first write the name of that class, whatever we are getting, and give it any name. The scanner, you can give any name, okay, accordingly, and use this new keyword, and just do the scanner thing, okay. Scanner, and inside this bracket you have to just specify that you're inputting someone. So you can just pass that system dot in, okay. So this just means that we are taking input, and system dot out means we are outputting something, okay. This is, so let's just name this A. Okay, this name, let's take a string, okay, and we'll name it A, okay. We'll see how to use that as a user's input, okay. A, we, what would be, it would be scanner dot next, okay, or next line, whatever you can call it, okay. It will just print it in the next line. So yeah, here we can check the condition that if the A is equals to anything, okay, as we have specified the type as string, we could give a string over here, that if A is equals to A B C D, that print this one, okay. And A is, if A is not equal to 5, or you can give any string over here also, okay. So we have three conditions, okay. If we give an input of A B C D, this will print this statement that is true, okay. If we give that this like SSSS I've written, this will do this, or if none of the condition is satisfied, it will go in this block and print out that the input is false, okay. Let's run and see what we get. First, let's just see if we give the input of ABCD, what will it do? ABCD, if we give an input, okay, it is giving us an false, but I think this is some mistake I've done over here, okay. But yeah, I think you've got what we are doing over here. We are just taking an input, and inside the if else condition, we are checking the conditions that if it is equal to or not. This is a very basic thing you do, okay. Let's just see some other things. Let's just see the another way of checking conditions is the switch statement. A very basic thing again. Most of you must be familiar with this. Let's just see how we use the switch statement in Java. Okay. Suppose we have a variable. Okay. Suppose let's just take a variable type int. Name it like a day variable. Okay. If it's 3. Okay. And we'll check condition of its switch condition. We'll check over here for the day variable. Okay. This is how you do the switch state in Java. Okay. Uh, Same, the writing for switch case also is same. Just use write the cases, whatever cases you have. If you have the case 1, and you can write system dot c. So I told you sy. So if you do, it will do. Okay. It will just ready-made give you the ready-made thing for system dot out dot println. Okay. Break you have to write, okay. Break, why we write the break statement, I'll tell you in a minute, okay. Let's just create 3-4 conditions, okay. Let's just copy this and write this multiple times so that we don't have to do it, okay. You give it a condition of 2 3, okay. Let's just take one more condition. We can take a default condition also, okay. If nothing is true, we can give it a default also. Default, in the default case, you just do this, will just print a string called default, okay. If not, none of the condition is satisfied, okay. Now let's just see why do we write this break keyword in the switch statements, okay. What this break keyword does is, whenever a condition is satisfied, okay, supposedly we have a condition over here that if this day is equal to 3, then write this. Okay, I've written Monday everywhere. So yeah, what, I don't know how the spelling is right or not, but yeah, let be. So what this will do, this will check the conditions over here. If the condition is true, like if here we have 3, so I think this condition will get satisfied. And if this condition is true, it will not go on and start checking the other conditions also. It will go out of the switch block. Okay, like if you don't write the block or the break statement, this will continue checking the other conditions also. That's why we specified the break keyword, that if the condition is satisfied, just get out of the switch statement. That's This is the way of telling the switch statement, that if you have your match, just go out of the switch block. Okay, if you don't write it, it will continue checking the other conditions also. That's why. Okay, so simple. I hope you all must have guessed the output of this. Okay, we have given the integer as 3, and we have few cases for that. Okay, we are getting the output as Wednesday over here. As you can see, Wednesday was the case for the third one. Okay, so default, I told you, if supposedly 1, 2, 3, none of the condition is met. So let's give it some weird number like 234. If we give, it will go into the default block, and there it will just print the default into it. Okay, so yeah, this is the switch statement I told you. After that, let's jump into loops. Okay, what are loops and all? Okay, I hope you guys are familiar with the greater than or less than, that kinds of symbols. I'll not get into that because that would just waste our time. Okay, so you greater than or equal to, all that conditions we do when we are checking some conditions. Okay, you can do it in the if else block. Okay, so let's just remove this switch statement. Okay, let's now the first loop. Which loop should we see first? Let's just see the while loop first. Okay, here also same, we have 3 kinds of loop. Okay, like we have in C++ or C, we have 3 kinds of loop over here also in Java. The syntax is also pretty much same, nothing different. If we get any 3, suppose, and we could write a while loop for this. And a while loop here, we specify the condition what we want to check. Okay, first, suppose we have to check that x is greater than 0. Okay, so what this will do, that it will keep on checking the it will keep on continuing the loop until this condition is true. Okay, so let's just what should we do, we just print the value of x. Okay, x. Okay, and we have to also give the increment or decrement operator, so that it will decrease the value after each cycle of the loop. Okay, so we can specify it down over here in the for while loop. We can, if you give x plus plus, what this will do, it will keep on adding every time it will keep on adding +1 every time the loop is done. Okay, if you give x minus minus, it will keep on subtracting the number. Okay, after each cycle of the loop. Okay, so this is how we write a while loop in Java, very much similar to other C++ and C. Okay, so let's just try running this code. What condition did we give over here? He x check the value of x until it is greater than 0. Okay, so the value of x was 5. So once this got executed, value of x got decreased by 1. So we came 4. We got 4 and all. Okay, let's just see what we are getting in the output. See how this is how we are getting an output. It started from 5 till 1. Okay, until 1 we went. Okay, because we gave it a condition that x should be greater than 0. That's why, so greater than 0 is 1. So it kept on continuing the loop until the condition is satisfied. If we give some weird condition over here, suppose like -4, if we give, So this will keep on checking till -4. So if you can see the output, see what we are getting is, yeah, from my 5 to we are getting till -3. But this is what we got over here. Okay. Well, so this is the while loop. Okay. One more kind of loop we have in Java. Okay. The do while loop also. uh, Do while loop we have. For that, let's just delete this loop. Okay. For the do while loop, the working is pretty much same, just the syntax is little bit different. We have to write the do first, and okay, and then we have to write whatever process or whatever operation we have to do. Here what operation we are doing, we're just printing the value. Okay, so we can do that over here. And after this we have to write the increment or decrement operator, whatever we have. Okay, suppose I give that x plus plus. Okay, and let's just start now x from 0. Let's go from the reverse side. Here we gave the same increment operator, so that it will increase the value of x after every looping or every loop or every cycle, I would say. And in the while condition, we have to keep whatever condition we want. So we want this loop execute until the value of x is less than 5 6. Okay, let's take 6. And this is how we write a do while loop. Okay, very same. Okay, you can relate this with C or C++. There we do the same thing, nothing is different. Okay, so let's just see running this code what we get. We're getting this. uh, we are getting the value from 0 to 5. Okay, so as you can see, we gave it a condition ki until the value of x is less than 6, we'll keep on looping through this loop. Okay, so this is the do while loop. I don't think many people use this or prefer this kind of loop. The main loop that we have is the for loop, and many people use the for loop only for majority of their operations or majority of the use cases. So let's just see what is and for loop over. For loop is very simple. The same thing we have to do over here also. For using a for loop, just give it an integer, any integer for the starting point. Okay, I hope you know what is the syntax for a for loop. I'll show you in a comment. Comment, I didn't tell you, but comment is very simple. Just do the double slash for single line comment, and if you do this and like this. Okay, the star and the slash, this will be for the multi-line comment. Okay, so this is how you write comments in Java. So for loop of first, what we have is we give the initial value. Okay, initial starting point. Okay, or initial value, I would say. And after a semicolon, we give it the condition. Okay, until what condition we have to check it. So we give this the condition. Okay, okay, so and after one more semicolon, we give it the increment or decrement, whatever you want to do. So we give increment or decrement. Okay, of whatever increment or decrement operator we want to use. Okay, increment or decrement. Okay, so this is the syntax for the for loop. Okay, very simple. Okay, so let's just try running a for loop. Okay, we have to give the starting point. So we give it a we name an integer called I. We give starting point of 0. Okay, and here we give the condition key until I is less than 10. Suppose anything you can give. Okay, and let's give an increment of I plus plus. You can do I plus 2 also. If you want to do I plus 2, you can use this kind of syntax. Plus is equals to 2. This is a shorthand for writing increment operators. Okay, you can do this. Okay, if you want to increase this by 2, or if you want to increase this by any number, you just use this kind of shortcut. Okay, instead of writing the whole thing, you can use this plus is equals to, or if you want to decrease, you can use this minus or equal to. Okay, for now what we are doing is we are just incrementing it by 1. So we'll just use it 1, And one more thing, you can just use I plus plus to increment it by 1. Okay. So why plus plus, not plus plus I? See what I plus plus is doing. It is adding one after the number. Okay. And what plus plus I would do, it would add the number before the I. Okay. So yeah, the thing is same, the operation is same, just the writing thing is a little bit different. Internally it would do the same thing. Plus plus I, it will add the one before the number, and I plus plus, it will add the number before the whatever integer we have. So working is same, but yeah, it's your choice. You can do it according to you. Okay. What we will just print the value of I. Okay. See, difference on console wouldn't be any different. Okay. I'll show you in a comment what is the major difference between I plus plus and plus plus I. See, what if you do I plus plus, what this will do is I plus plus. Okay. This is easy. This is equals to I plus 1. Okay. This is the same as I plus plus. And if we do plus plus I, okay, this is like 1, and after that it will add I. So see, the working is like this, but see, under the hood it's still the same thing. We want to add the variables, and we are doing the same thing. Okay. So I hope you got this. Okay. It's not a big deal. Again, I told you one more shortcut for the increment thing. Like, you can just write plus is equals to, and you do whatever number you want to increment it by. If you don't want to increment by one specifically, okay. If you want to increment it by 2, okay, we was trying for 1 for now. Let's increment this by 2. Okay. So every time the loop is executed, it will increment the number by 2. Let's try running this and see what we get. Okay. See here, it incremented by 2 2. Okay. See, we started off from 0, then we got the loop executed. We printed the value of I. Value of I was simple. It was 0 firstly. After that, after the loop got completed, it incremented the value of by 2. Okay. If you want to increment the value by 3, then also just write 3. You can increment the value of 3 also. And if you just want to, like, this is a standard thing. Every time we want to increment it by 1, most of the times. So there you can just type this thing, and it will increment by 1. Okay. So see, that's incremented by 1, and we got a value for each of them. Okay. Again, like, it's not a big deal to worry about. Okay. We can also use multiple for loops if you want to. If you have something like a three-dimensional, no. If you have two-dimensional array or three-dimensional array, then you can nest this loop on top of each other. We'll see how we do it. Okay. Uh, uh, have you guys tried printing star patterns using the normal for loops? We can also do that using. Let's just see how we can just print the star patterns like that. That is the question mostly asked in the coding interviews. Okay. For printing the star pattern, we have to use two for loops on the top of each other. Okay. So let's just see how we can do it. Okay. So inside this loop, let's just use one more for loop. Okay. What is easier to do, while loop, for loop? See, it's up to you. It's your choice. Okay. Whatever you feel easy, you can use. The working of all of these loops are pretty much same. They do the same thing of like printing the like iterating the iterating the operation which we give inside it. So yeah, it's your choice. Baki, easy or hard it is, it's up to you. So for some time it could be easy for you, or it could be hard for me. But it could be easy for me, that would be hard for you. So yeah, it's your choice. Okay. Let's just try printing the star pattern or the pyramid pattern. No, we many times we have this in college and all. And in the coding interviews also, if you go, they mostly ask this thing. Okay, so let's just uh, try printing some stars, the pyramid pattern using for loops. Okay, so we have this integer I. Inside this we'll nest another for loop. Okay, we'll give another variable j. Okay, what with this j would do, this j would start from zero. Suppose zero would, okay, and the condition which we'll give inside over here is will be j should be less than or equal to uh, I. Okay, so it will, once this whole value of I is satisfied, it will move forward after that. Okay, so for building the logic or getting used to this for loops, I would suggest ki practice printing this thing. Okay, this is the best way you can get your hand on the for loops and all. Okay, okay, so yeah, it's up to you. For loop is not easy, while loop is not easy. Whatever you feel easy, you can use that. Okay. Yeah, syntactically, if we see, according to writing, according to the coding perspective, yeah, for loop is far easy to write as compared to other do while loop or while loop, because we just inside a single line we write all the stuff. Okay, and in that we just separate those things. Okay, so just the writing style is different. Baki the working is same of all the three loops. We have three options. You can use any of them. Okay, so let's just see about the star pattern. Okay, so. We got this while loop. Okay, sorry, we got this for loop, first for loop, which we are tending to work until the value of I is less than 10, and we got this other loop where we are checking until the value of j is less than or equal to I. Okay, so let's just see how this works. We'll just print a star for now. If we go then do system.out.print, inside there, just let's just print a star. Okay, and after this, for the next line, okay, here one more thing you should notice is that if you give print ln, it will give a next line every time you the printing is done. So just remove this ln. What this will do, this will not print the next line. Okay, if you use this, like I'll just show you. Okay, what's the difference between writing a normal print or a print ln. Okay, so let's just give a space. Okay, we want to give it a space every time we one operation is done. So let's just try running this. So let's just see what we get. See what we are getting over here is we are getting this stars in a line. Okay, because what's happening over here is we are writing print ln, and because of that print ln, every time the statement is executed, it is printing a slash n. I would, if you know, it is also printing a slash n. With that, it is printing a next line. To avoid that next line, you can remove this ln, and this will just print them in a one single line. And after the single line is done, here we have written the print ln statement so that we get a next line for that. Okay, let's just try running this. See, we got this star pattern. Okay, and again you can do various types of them. If you want to draw it like a pyramid or something, you can do it also. It's your choice. If okay, there are various types of ways by which you can do that. Okay, this is the most simple and basic one I told you, and I would suggest ki if you want to master the loops, because these are very necessary. This is the basic thing. If you are in the coding world, loops and the if else statements, you have to use them every time. Without them you cannot work. Okay, so it's better you practice these things so that you get familiar with all of these. Okay, for some people must be familiar with this, but yeah, for the new ones, just practice the star patterns. This is the best way you can start getting better in the loops, using loops and all. Okay, one more kind of loop we have in Java, that is the for in loop or the enhanced for loop. For that, I'll tell you. Okay, first, let's just see how can we declare a simple array in Java. Okay, so for declaring a normal array, not a collection, normal array. You can just do this like int, and you can name this array anything, arr, I'll name it, okay. And you can give it a value, okay. As it is an integer array, you could specify this, okay. This is like you have collections also, you have array list, a linked list, all that. But for now, the basic way to declare an array would be just give two square brackets and name it, and just inside this curly braces you can declare the numbers 2, 3, 5, 6, whatever you have, okay. And now what I'm showing you how to use an enhanced for loop or a for each loop, we call it in Java, okay. For each loop is something we use it when like we don't know the number that we have inside the list or the thing which we are looping through. There you can use the whether you can use the enhanced for loop. Syntax of for the enhanced for loop is you just write for, okay. And here, like what data type we have over here is all are integers, so you can just type integer. You can name it anything, or suppose I name it a, and just give it a colon, okay, not a semicolon, a colon, okay. And just give the name of that array, okay, whatever array you have. I have an array named arr, so I gave its name. So yeah, that's it. This is the enhanced for loop, okay. I think this is again way more easy to understand than the normal for loop, because you just have to specify the data type which you have inside the array, and just give the name of the array. What this will do, this will go and loop through every object or every integer you have inside this array, okay. And if you want to do any operation, you can just write it inside the for loop. Here, let's just try simply printing that variables, okay. So what we are doing is we are looping through this array, and why the square brackets after the end? The square brackets are to declare an array, okay. If you just give a normal integer, okay, this will throw an error, okay. See, you can see here this is throwing an error. To just specify that this is an array of integers. If you have array of doubles or array of float variables, you can use float, but we have an array of integers, so just give this two brackets. This will make Java understand, okay, this is an array, okay. So yeah, this is our enhanced for loop, okay. Let's just try running this and see what we get. See, this is printing every variable we have inside over here. We can do this using a normal for loop also. If you know the length of that, you can specify the length, or you can use the dot length method which we have in arrays. But yeah, for now, let's just not get into that. We'll see that when we see collections framework of Java, okay. There are many collections in Java, okay. We have stack, linked list, we have set, hash map. We have lots of them, okay. uh, now now just keep on asking your questions in the chat box, okay. We have more things, but we have the object oriented concept. We'll look into them from tomorrow, okay. Though those are very important and important concept, so we'll look into that object oriented stuff from tomorrow. For now, I'll just tell you how to create another class and how to instantiate a class, okay. So if you want to create another class, just go over here, new, to get this class, new Java class. We'll name this b.java. First one we had a.java, okay. We'll give us a ready-made class, okay. As in C programming, it's after the array. Yeah, it's different in C, but this is how you declare an array. Don't worry about the array stuff. Once we move to the collections framework of Java, there we have various types of collections, and we can see there. Okay. example of scanner, how to take input, I told you I think few times, many times ago. uh, so you can look into that. We'll share you the video. Okay, that is very easy. And don't worry, when you are developing any good level application, you don't necessarily need that scanf and scanner thing. Okay, let's just see how can we instantiate a class, this B class over in the A. Okay, if you want to use the if you want to use the B methods of B inside A. Okay, so let's just see how we can do it. Okay, let's just go to a b.java file. Okay, so here what we are getting is we let's just create a method. Okay, a normal method. I hope you know how to create methods. Okay, and let's just see how can we create a method. Method is nothing. It's some people call it function, some people call it method. It's up to you. You can call it anything. Okay, don't get confused. What is method? Okay, it is function. If you know what are functions, it is the same thing we call the method over here. Okay, if you don't have any return type, you can just specify void. Okay, void. Let's just name this method anything abcd. Will name it. Okay, this is how you create a method in Java. Same we do in C, we do in C++. The same thing we have to do over here to create a method or a function, whatever you call it. Okay. So inside the method body, we can specify whatever this method is tends to do. Okay. Uh, let's just print inside this method. Let's just okay. Many people were asking how to take input, so let's just do that operation inside this method. Let's just use the scanner. Okay, and take an input from the user and try printing that. Okay, okay, scanner is equals to new scanner. Okay, so yeah, this is it. Okay, and let's just take string input. Okay, string ss, and this is scanner dot scanner dot next line. Okay, so this is how we'll take. This is we declared the first we instantiated or got the object of the scanner class, and then we use this scanner dot next line method to take the input. Okay, we have this variable called ss. Okay, so let's just print this. Nothing special. Okay, this is very easy, I think. So now what difference we are doing is we have an other class where we have a method of named abcd. Okay, I hope you know how to create a method. Okay, so here we are having this method called abcd, and we are going to use this abcd method in this a class. Okay, so let's just see how can we use that. Okay, integer input, that the process would be the same. There will be no difference. Next line, here we can just give next int. Okay, next byte, next int, next double. See, for integer input you can use this next int. Okay, for string I have declared this as string. Okay, for integer you can just use that. Okay, so for integer use next int, for string use next line, for float use next float, double use next double. Yeah, it goes on. Just so what you're going to see that how can we use this abcd method in this a.java class. Okay, inside this a class, how supposed to how are we supposed to use that method. Okay, so for that we have to create an instance of a class. If you have done any object oriented programming, then you must be familiar what is object and what is how do we instantiate a class in other class. Okay, so for instantiating this class, the basic thing we have to do is just use the name of that class. Suppose we are using b, so b, after that give it a name, any name you can give. This name is bb, small b, and is equals to new B. That's it. This is how we'll instantiate that B class in our A class. Okay. So we have this the class called B. Okay. And what we are doing is we are just instantiating. We are going to use its method. Okay. ABCD over here. So for using that method, we can just use that object or BB. Okay, we give that object a name called BB. So BB dot whenever we'll do it will give us all the things we can do. So we have this ABCD method over there. So in this way we can use the method of that other class over here. Okay, so this is how we'll use the method of that B class over in the AA. Okay. So what that method is doing is it's just taking the user input and printing it. Okay. Let's just try running this and what we get. Okay. It will ask us for input. We what we did we do? We gave it an integer input. Okay. So let's just give it an integer. Yeah. So this is how we got that input. Okay. How to take an input? I hope this is clear. Okay. We have to use the scanner class for that, and we have to create its object the same way we created the object of our B class. This is just scanner is just a inbuilt class in the Java JRE system library, and we are just using its method called next int for taking the input from the user. Okay, this is very easy. Okay, so this is fine, I think. Okay, this is how we use the instantiate and use the method of some other class. Okay, this is the object oriented concept. We'll go deep into this in our other session. Okay, today we'll not focus much into them. So if you have some return type, you can just specify the return type over here. If you have a return type of string, you can specify a return type over here, and you can return that value. Okay, return whatever string we are getting. Okay, this is how you does give the return to an function or a method. Okay, didn't understand in class A. Okay, so see, I hope this one is clear that we did nothing. We created a method which has a return type of void. Okay, it wasn't supposed to return anything. So what we were planning to do is we were planning to use this method ABCD inside the other class. Okay, not this B class, but inside this other class called A. And also this has the main method of our program. So we have to go through this class to run our file. So so for using this method over here in the A class, what we did is we created its instance. Okay, what instance means? We created its one object. Okay, and by using the object, we can access all its variables, all its methods it has. Okay, so what we did is this is the syntax how you create an instance of an class. Okay, you may have any numbers of class, you just have to use the name of that class. Here the name of class was B, and we gave this instance a name. Okay, we gave this instance a name called BB. Okay, so and this new keyword you have to use every time. Okay, and after using this new keyword, you have to give this B and bracket. If you have any constructor, if you have any input that you are going to take, you can specify that inside this. Okay, but for now we don't know what is the constructor. When we learn what is a constructor, we'll try using it also, but for now it is a very simple task. We're doing nothing, we're just taking the user input from over there, and we're just using that method called abcd over in this class. Okay, hope this is clear. Why didn't we write public static void main inside class B? See, class B is not our main class. Okay, public static void main is a main method that we use to run our code. That is the starting point of any application or any Java code that you write. If you are creating anything, the first thing that the is going to run is the main method. Whatever you write inside the main method is going to get executed first. Okay, that's why we wrote this main method. And for running the running our Java code, we have to write this main method. Okay, without the main method we cannot run our Java code. Okay, so yeah, that is also one thing you have to keep in mind. In the B class, we didn't write because we are just going to use this method. Okay, this is also a method. See, main is also nothing different. Main is also a method, but it is different. It has this main keyword, and we have this thing. But yeah, we have if we this is the first thing that when comes uh, whenever we run our Java code. Okay, and again, ask your doubt. I think we had finished what we have was supposed to complete today. Tomorrow we'll see what are the object oriented concept. Okay, like inheritance, polymorphism, abstractions, encapsulation. These are the four pillars of object oriented world. So yeah, we'll see those stuff tomorrow in tomorrow's session. Okay, and we'll go deep into it. Okay, how can we this class instantiation process also would be clear to you by tomorrow, because that is the one factor in the inheritance property. So yeah, now there is no need to compile because you directly run it. No, see, the code is getting compiled actually. Okay, if we go to the location of what Java file we have is where I don't know where will we get the location of it. Is it important to write import? Import we write whenever we are using some third party packages or something out of the GRE that we have. Okay, if we are using some other packages, then we have to import them. Okay, if we have, suppose we have here we have a single package. If we have multiple packages, then we have to use the import keyword to import that package or that class inside our program. Okay, there is no need to compile. Okay, someone asked me there is no need to compile. See, the code is getting compiled first, and after that only it is getting interpreted. See, what we are getting is we have a Java code. Okay, dot Java file. Okay, and dot Java file is getting converted into a dot class file. Okay, and that dot class file is the bytecode what we get, and that bytecode we are running. Okay, uh, someone is asking what is EJB. A- EJB and RMI are for now they are very vague things, I would say. For the first day sessions, let's just not talk about them for now. They will look into it. Okay, remote method invocation and or EJB thing. Okay, enterprise Java Beans and all. This we use whenever we write any server side code using Java. Okay, can't we generate that code directly? Which code? Which code we are supposed to generate automatically? We have to write it now. Getters and setters, yeah, we can you can generate it automatically here in I'm sorry. See, if you right click over here, you get the option to generate getters and setters in Eclipse. Okay, so you can directly do that. Okay, here you'll get some options to generate. Okay, but yeah, whenever you'll do it, you'll get an option. Sorry, don't worry about that for now. We'll look into it whenever we'll require getters and setters and all that stuff. Okay, without creating instance, can we use the user input? No. For using the scanner class, we have to create the instance of that scanner class. Okay, we cannot use it without it. Okay, it is not a it is not a pre-built method in the Java. We have to import its class for using it. Okay, which compiler is used to compile the code. The name of the compiler of Java is Java C. Okay. If you have a Linux system, then you can directly write your Java code in your terminal, and you can also run it using Java C and dot whatever you have. In like if you have used C, there we have GCC. Okay, for compiling our code. The name of Java's compiler is Java C. After the Java code is compiled, let me find if we have a project. If I get, I'll show you how the class is getting created. Okay, it must be in the users section. See in the Eclipse workspace. See here we have our ABCD project. See, this is our two files we have, a.java and b.java. And as soon as we compile these, we get two separate files for running the bytecode files. That is the dot class files. Okay. So yeah, it isn't directly interpreted. It is first compiled, then only it is interpreted. And that's why Java is fast. Okay. If you take some interpreted language, they are not as fast as Java. If you take for supposedly Python is not as fast as Java. Python has different kinds of applications, and it is used in the machine learning stuff and all because its syntax is easy, and you can your write that libraries very easily, that complex libraries. That's why use people use Python over there. And also in today's date we have lots of lots of good processing powers in our computer, so that's why it doesn't even matter so much. Okay, earlier Python wasn't so much famous because people don't not used to have so much good processing powers in their system. That's why they used to prefer some other languages earlier, but now it's changing. Okay, everybody just start posting your doubts in the chat box. Okay, we'll share the PPT in the WhatsApp group, don't worry about that. Okay, uh, like start posting your doubt, whatever you have. Okay, any basic doubt if you have, you can ask. Okay, tomorrow we will be looking into the object oriented stuff. Okay, all the object oriented properties that Java has, and how can we use it inside our Java code. Okay, installation on the WhatsApp group, setting up environment variables, etc. See, environment variables is nothing. It is like it is your system variables. If you have something which should be shared across your system, just open up this environment variables. You search env, and here in this path section, you'll have these things. Okay, so suppose I have this Flutter thing which is available on the system, and for JDK, see, I have given the path of my JDK. Okay, this is the path of my JDK that I've installed. So because of this, what will happen is it will be available across the system. I don't have to every time go to that specific folder for using the JDK. Okay, so that's the only application of Java. Okay, video will be posted on YouTube. Okay, multi-threaded feature with a practical example. See, multi-threading and all, we are going to see it, but for now don't worry about that. We'll see it. Okay, once we move to the advanced topics, multi-threading and all, we'll look into it. Multi-threading, if I do right now, everyone will get so much confused that so let's just keep it simple for now. From tomorrow we'll go one by one in further. Okay, multi-threading is nothing. If if you tell you in simple words, multi-threading is nothing. It's just a property in Java by which we can run two lines of two programs on a simple in a single thread. Okay, instead of waiting for one program to get executed, like, or one process, I would say. If you have two processes, you can run two processes simultaneously. Okay, that is only multi-threading. It is It is nothing big. It will understand that once we see into it. Okay. Start posting your doubt, everybody, please. But Java is not 100% object oriented. No, Java is object oriented. Java is object oriented. It is the purely object oriented. Like in other languages, if you take for instance JavaScript and all, they support functional programming also, and also support object oriented. If you also have done some coding in TypeScript is also a similar one. But yeah, no, Java is not something like that. Java is purely object oriented. Okay. What is the for each loop? For each loop is just a easier way to use a for loop. Okay. If you don't know the length, or if you don't know the limit of the thing you have to loop through, you can use a for each loop over there. Suppose I told you an example that if you have an array, if you don't know its length, you can use a for each loop. It will automatically loop through each element according to the length of that array. Okay. As a programming language, where do you see Java after 5 or 10 years? A very interesting question. I would like to talk about it. See, Java is very old. Okay, it's almost 25 years from now that Java came into existence. Okay, and in today's day, I can understand we have so many options. We have so many good programming languages to work with, but Java has not lost its existence till now, and it will be there. It is going to be there after a long time. Okay, no, because it is good. Okay, because of that JVM feature, like many languages doesn't have that feature. You can run your code across every system. Okay, so that's why Java is going to be there. If you take an instance like if you know Android is still using Java, although it has several options, but it still uses Java for their code. Its core libraries are still written in Java and C and C++. Okay, so yeah, it is going to be there for a long time. Don't worry about that. In array, how int array C program is like int array 3. Yeah, it's just a difference between the syntax of C and Java. In Java, you also have other types of arrays. We have array lists, we have sets, we have maps. We'll look into it as we move further. But yeah, syntax is going to be a little bit different. The way we define variables is going to be a little bit different. What is the difference between local variable and instance variable? Yeah, very good question. See, local variable is nothing. If you have a class, okay, and you have a variable declared over here only. Okay? Suppose you have any variable here, so this would be the local variable. And the instance variable, what that, suppose in this class I have this variable called int e. Okay, so and if I'm using this e variable over here, using the instance of that class, so that would be the instance variable. Okay, so this is what this is. This is an instance of that class, and we are using this instance over here. Okay, it's some error, but don't worry about that for now. Also, what isn't C++ much more easy, and Java is a little bit complicated. So why what makes it better than C or C++? C तो पहली बात we should not consider, because C is not object oriented. It is a functional programming language, and when you have some complicated use cases, it becomes a little messed up. Okay, so there you have to go with Java. I told C++ is very good when it comes to performance. It is, I would say, still the very fast. Okay, and if you are working with some networking or hardware thing, or if you are working in some IoT devices, they still use C++ and C for their coding, because like they are those are the languages which are very close to the hardware of the systems. Okay, but and yeah, syntax. Don't worry about the syntax. It would seem a little bit different. It would seem a little bit complicated, but yeah, you should focus on the working and what kind of applications it has in the world. Syntax, you can learn about the syntax of any language within 1 or 2 days. That is not an issue. So yeah, next question is, what is the difference between break and continue statement? Yeah, break statement, I told you, if in the switch case statement, if the condition is met, whatever condition you are checking, if that case is met, if you don't want to if you don't want to continue checking other cases, there you can use the break keyword. What that break keyword would do, it will just take out you take you out of the switch statement. And the continue statement, it will do key, if that condition is met, it will continue, it will not take you out of the loop. Okay, please define inheritance. Inheritance is, see, if you can see here, I think a property which we have done here is the inheritance only. Inheritance means what we have done is we have some other class and we have created its instance over here and we are using its method over here. So inheritance is, we have a concept of parent class, super class. So who was the parent class over here? Key B was the parent class. Okay, what did we do? We use the methods of B for our A. So that's why this is called inheritance only. Key, we are accessing some other classes, methods or variables by creating the instance of that class. We are going to see that tomorrow when we are going to cover that object oriented topics. We'll see this in much more deep. Okay. Instance variables is declared in class and local variables is declared inside main. No, it's not necessary. Local variable is just anything which you define inside a method. Okay, that is a local variable. If you create it above a class, that is a global variable, you call it. Okay, instance variable is don't worry. Instance variable is if you are creating an instance of any class and if you are using a variable of that class, that is called an instance variable. Okay.
Okay, so Piyush sir, I guess our time has been done.
Yeah, we can finish up. If you have any doubt, quickly post it up. Otherwise, we'll wrap up for today.
Yeah, we'll be explaining the remaining doubts tomorrow in this
Yeah,
session. But
yeah,
today,
yeah.
I guess we should end right now because we have a time limit.
Yeah. No issues.
Okay.
We tomorrow we'll look into the object-oriented stuff and all. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you everyone. We'll see you tomorrow at 12 noon, and the links will be shared at 11. So thank you so much. Okay, sir. So can we wind up?
Yeah, we can.